Good morning, all you freedom loving patriots out there. Craig Gibson here with Sons of Liberty, and this is Constitution Coffee and Service. This week, we are going to be brewing up Overwatch Coffee Shop Code 4. Code 4 is our maple syrup and smoky bacon flavored coffee. We'll be brewing it up all week. Come on in and give it a try. We also have 7 other flavors to choose from, as well as a pretty decent selection of Black Rifle coffee available. Of course, Code 4 is one of our coffees that we put out there in support of our law enforcement. All right, 12th Amendment. So we're not going to read the entire thing because honestly, the 12th Amendment is kind of funny how it came about. And it shows that at one point in time, our government actually would admit to mistakes and fix them. That's the surprising part. They would actually fix them. Okay, so the 12th Amendment came about after the election of 1800. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr were running. Well, the way the Electoral College worked at that time, Aaron Burr and Thomas Jefferson ended up tying the number of electoral votes. So then it fell to the House of Representatives, which required 36 ballots, to finally name Thomas Jefferson as the President of the United States. And after that, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. It shouldn't be this complicated. So we have the 12th Amendment, where now, when you vote, you're voting for the president and vice president together, not separate electoral votes. And while this video is not necessarily about the Electoral College, we've got a very important election coming up in November. Now, this election, regardless of who is elected, this is not going to fix what's going on in our country. The only thing that's going to fix that is the American people standing up, the American people holding our elected officials accountable for their actions, regardless of what party they're with. But after Hillary Clinton lost to President Donald Trump in the 2016 election, you had people throwing a complete fit about the Electoral College. We got to do away with it because Hillary won the popular vote. Nobody cares that she didn't win the Electoral College. Well, the rest of the country cares. Because here's the thing. You look at the Electoral College and you look at how those electorates are delegated in each of the states. Imagine, hold on, before we get to that, look at California right now. Look at New York right now. And we'll just pick on those two today. Because they're California and New York, why not? So you look at those two. Could you imagine those two states basically dictating who our nation's leader would be every election? Because of the population density, where they're going to have more votes just because they have more people of voting age. And just looking at voting history in California and New York, I'm guessing it's primarily liberals with a cluster or two of conservatives spread throughout the state. But for the most part, it would be liberals that would dictate who our president is every election. That just would not be fair to the rest of the country. So the Electoral College, even with its imperfections, is still the fairest way to break it down. Now, this 12th Amendment was one example of our government actually realizing there was a problem, fixing the problem, and going on. You know, they didn't tax the problem to death. They didn't regulate the problem into submission. They went in, they fixed it. Now imagine if our elected officials actually did that today. Taxes would be less. We'd have less government waste. Hard to imagine, isn't it? All right. So, 12th Amendment, it's important. It's important to understand why the electorate works the way it does, why the Electoral College works the way it does, why, we vote a president and vice president in together as a team versus, I think it's Texas, where they vote for a governor and then a lieutenant governor. Totally separate. Could be the same party, could be two completely different parties. So, for the service this week, and I just want to kind of keep this one short this week. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's one of the few times, like I said, that the government actually saw a problem, fixed it, and moved on. So for the service, of course, our police officers. As of last check this morning, 83 police officers have died this year in 2020. Now, that encompasses all deaths within law enforcement. So whether it was from an illness, an accident, something traffic related, or an accident on the job, of course, gunshot fatalities, which does include not just violent crime against an officer, but also suicide. But 83. And some people would look at that and say, well, that's less than last year. That's not the point. How many officers have been ambushed this year? We just had 3 in, I want to say it was Maryland, ambushed. And we have elected officials that just let this go on. We have elected officials that actually side with these clowns, these terrorists, these thugs that continue to destroy cities, continue to target police officers simply because of the badge and the uniform that they wear. Well, guys, the only way to change this is for us to stand with our men and women in law enforcement and to vote out these elected officials that consistently side with criminals. So yeah, we'll be standing with our law enforcement. So, guys, if you be sure to thank those officers out there, even if you're getting pulled over, getting yourself a ticket. Thank the officer. Because who else is going to do the job? You? Maybe. But they're doing it right now. They're the ones that are in that role. Yes, you're going to have bad days. Officers are going to have bad days. You're going to have bad officers, just like bad in every other field. So don't blame it on the profession, and don't blame every officer for a handful of bad ones. All right, guys, as always, faith, not fear, and be the kind of American worth these guys making a sacrifice for, whether it's our law enforcement, our military, EMS, firefighters. Be the kind of American that's worth it. All right, guys, we will talk to you next week with Amendment 13. All right, y'all take care.